is a very good suggestion since most Pakistani military leaders are from the Pathans.
सत्यपाल जी for a minute एक जुमला वो भी बोलना चाहते हैं.
Pakistan's internal weakness comes out of religious interpretation of history. इसको अपने ज़हन में रखिए.
John Dayal.
Mr. Kasuri, good morning. You would notice I'm not a Kashmiri. Let me add my voice to those who are asking for news about the disappeared journalists in Pakistan. You would know, sir, that there are many activists who have disappeared in India. Many for more
65.
than a year.
65.
They will be 66 soon.
Yeah, okay.
Who have disappeared for more than a year or more. And I think we should speak for them too. Could you ask people in Pakistan to speak for them? Second, I would say that there are other stakeholders than the Kashmiris or the Jammuwalas in this thing. The rest of us, especially the Muslims. I travel across the length and breadth of India, witnessing, going and shaking hands with, weeping with every victim of lynching, on cow slaughter, on whatever. They are victims of, in a way, the India-Pakistan confrontation by proxy. By proxy. Because every time a soldier comes dead in a body bag to Kerala, to Karnataka, to Tamil Nadu, these are states extreme south of India, sir, where Mani and I come from, the two Manis. There is a halchal there. The media catches on. And the media, as Mani would tell you, is an instrument of policy. It is not just a source of information. In this situation, as Abdullah Sahab said, how does Mr. Modi, Mr. Dawar, Mr. Bhagwat back in Nagpur look? Is peace in Pakistan, do they see it as progressing the political agenda, or do they see tension with Pakistan as a done thing? At the moment, sir, as a mere traveler, I would say peace with Pakistan is not part of their agenda. How do we then tell them, put pressure on them? I can't, maybe you can't, but some of the people on this table can. Mr. Vedic possibly can, more than the rest of us. I would say the key lies with Mr. Modi, Mr. Dawar, Mr. Bhagwat. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Manishankar Raya.
Sir, I would particularly, given the shortage of time, like to address that young lady, Aarti, Tiku, and my friend Ashok Bhan, because all the other voices are really the same.
Similar.
They all were similar. Ashok sir, you said, why should I live in exile for 30 years and more? My answer is you shouldn't. We must get you back into Kashmir. And every section of public opinion in Kashmir that I have encountered holds the view that the Kashmiri Pandit is integral to the Kashmiri identity. So you want to go back, they want you back. What comes in the way is that we are not settling the two issues that are interrelated, the relationship between Delhi and Srinagar and the relationship between Delhi and Islamabad. Once and only if we do that, would you be able to end your exile. And nothing would please me more than to see you in Srinagar.
That's my point.
I don't think there is any...
subservient to that.
Okay. The point is, why should we be subservient to Pakistan to ensure this?
And Delhi, Srinagar.
Okay, and why should we be subservient to this? Well, if you know another way of getting back to Kashmir, please undertake that step. If there is any way that you know other than our relationships improving with both Islamabad and Srinagar, for you to go back to Kashmir, I welcome that. Because your presence in Delhi or anywhere else in the country is only desirable so long as you wish to be there. And if your heart, your mind, your thoughts lie inside the valley, we must arrange for you to go back. And to my mind, not yours, the only way of doing that is to bring the situation to normal in Kashmir which can only be done by a process of dialogue which includes everybody, including the Pakistani proxies, as Aarti said. Yeah, there are Pakistani proxies there. But if you think the entire discontent in the valley is either limited to the proxies or is being fueled only by the proxies, I have to disagree with you. There are many, many others, as Shujat particularly pointed out. There is so much discontent, not only in Kashmir. There's even more discontent in Jammu. Even more discontent in Jammu. I met Pandits from Doda who want to know why Kashmiri Pandits from Kashmir are being privileged over Hindus from Doda. I've met Muslims in Doda who want to understand why they are not being treated as Kashmiri Muslims, why are they being put in a different category. We heard from Mr. Imtiaz Mir just now how people who are on the borders with Pakistan are the worst sufferers because all the cross-border firing in your name or his is taking place in such a way as to kill his fellows from their village. In Jammu, we heard from a man from Chamjoria who said, I've had to change nationalities 4 times in the last 70 years. So therefore, the problems are immense. And in this process, I don't think sitting back here and saying that all these people are wrong and they must look at things in our perspective, and until they do, we will regard them as crazy and paranoid, is the way. Yes, they need to look at our perspectives, and we need to look at their perspectives. And the only way that can happen is if instead of firing at each other, we were to sit across the table and sit. And we were to have in our delegation people who are trusted by the Kashmiri Pandit community, which as far as I can see is also of various different views. But anyway, there are many respectable representatives. I regard Ashok Bhan as a friend of India and Pakistan because he wants to go back to Kashmir. And I want him to go back to Kashmir. And whether Kasuri wants you to go back to Kashmir or not, every Kashmiri sitting here wants you back there. So there must be some element, some basis on which we move forward. Do you think Pakistan can be isolated because Trump says something in favor of us? Or China is nothing, we've got Trump on our side? We have to solve our own problems. Otherwise, as my friend Khurshid said, others will come in. We can't be 2 dogs fighting while the monkey comes in and takes away the meat. So therefore, I want you to please understand that your problems are real. They are accepted in India. Are they accepted in Pakistan? Do they have a legitimate role to quote Aarti? Well, they're in possession of 1/3 of Kashmir. 1/3 of your riyasat is with them. If you're willing to settle for 2/3, then they don't matter. And if they are not willing to settle for 2/3 being with us, well, they will never move. So your question is the most relevant one. You said, sorry, was it? No, it was Ashok who said it. Sorry, 1 minute. He said, what does Pakistan want? The answer cannot be given on behalf of Pakistan, but a large segment of Pakistani opinion, represented by such a legitimate representative of Pakistan as Khurshid Kasuri, gave the answer. What we want is the 4-point formula. Point 1 says that there's no question of azadi, but point 2 says that there must be as much autonomy as possible, not only in Indian Kashmir, but also in Pakistani Kashmir. And that the progress is not only a matter of economics, that the political progress on both sides of the LOC should be the same. It also says there is no question of exchanging people or territories. What it says is we must render the LOC irrelevant by opening up such contact between Kashmiris on both sides of whatever religion or non-religious persuasion, that they interact with them, each other as normally as Delhi interacts with, say, Meerut. And that was the process that the butcher of Kargil was taking forward. So it's not our business who runs Pakistan. We are the greatest country for dealing with military dictators. We are the greatest country for dealing with tyrannical regimes. The only country we have a problem with is Pakistan if they have a military leader. But we can't change the relationship between the military and civil society in Pakistan. That has to be changed by the Pakistanis. And in the meanwhile, let's talk to them. So I completely endorse, I think it was Aarti who said this. I think it was her who said it. No, sorry, it was Jyoti. Why not have the military with us? Did any meeting take place during the Second World War?
Not
Whether it was...
Not Joe, it was
Who?
but some other lady.
Anyway, whoever it was, Nina said it. Did any meeting take place in Tehran or in Tangiers or in Yalta where military advisors were not present? Did the talks in Indochina not have Admiral Beadle Smith, who was the one who signed he refused to sign the agreement, but allowed America's name to come on top? We were frightened that Ayub's Bonapartist tendencies would switch to his friends and colleagues in 1958. But nobody in the Pakistan Army today has been to the Indian Military Academy. Whereas in 1958, everyone in the Pakistan Army had been to the Indian Military Academy. So the transmission through friendship of Bonapartist tendencies will not take place anymore. So let's have General Kapoor. Let us have whatever their names are now, they keep changing so often. But let's have them on board while we talk, if we want to talk to the Pakistanis. But if we allow the militaries of the two countries to talk without the political authority being there, I don't know, God knows what will happen. Ultimately, it has to be a political solution, and therefore politicians have to be involved, civil society has to be involved, we have to have diplomats involved, we have to have proper preparation, there have to be talks about talks. We can't do with Pakistan what Shujat was talking about, this Sharma fellow doing in Kashmir. He's gone there without an agenda, he's gone there without a mandate, he's gone there without the authority to say, let's talk about the J&K Assembly's autonomy resolution. He's gone there without a mandate to talk about the Rangarajan Committee. He's gone there without a mandate to talk about the recommendations of the 6 working groups. He's gone there without authority to even look at the interlocutor's report, let alone make that a basis for negotiation. And certainly he needs to talk to everybody, and that is a great advance that they're ready to talk to the Hurriyat. And yes, the Hurriyat are separatists. Now, poor Khurshid has been talking to the Hurriyat for, I don't know, every year. And he keeps spending time with them, both there, here, abroad. What good has it done him? Absolutely nothing. What harm has it done us? Absolutely nothing. So why make that the red line? Why make that the red line? He credited, I've forgotten who with it, but it was Atal Bihari Vajpayee who allowed the first contacts. And Modi belongs to his party. So what's the problem? What he has said is, I need to talk to the Hurriyat in order to carry conviction with Pakistanis that we are not ignoring the views of that section of Kashmir's population which stands with the Hurriyat. But when we talk to the Hurriyat, we find there are 27 voices. And that when we talk to them, there are 27 voices. There are among the leaders, one leader who has killed the father of another leader. And that bitterness has not gone. So the easiest persons to talk to are the Hurriyat, because they're not an organization, they're a conference. And they're a conference of 27 parties that doesn't have the guts to contest an election. And we've got Tarigami on our side. We've got all these people, Imtiaz, on our side. Kashmir is with us. Only if we treat Kashmiris with honesty, with decency, with respect. And therefore, I say, let's first begin by trusting the Kashmiris, and then simultaneously move on a track which through dialogue will create trust. When Kasuri Saab was monitoring the back channel conversation, and this is undeniable, terrorism from Pakistan had almost dropped to zero. And ceasefire line violations had almost dropped to zero. And cross-border firing had dropped to zero. So can terrorism and talks go together? Well, the only way of ending terrorism is through talks. And can we have talks with them when they are killing our people? It's the only way to stop them from killing our people and from our killing their people. Do you have a tear in your eye for the dead Pakistanis? I have the same tear for those who've been killed in firing in Pakistan as I have for those who've been killed in India. I can only say I have 2 tears for our Jawans, but only 1 tear for the Pakistani Jawans. They are victims of a failure to come to a conclusion. And the only conclusion that we can possibly work towards is a combination. I want Kasuri Saab to respond to exile for 30 years, brought about by your general saying he wants to bleed us with 1,000 cuts. These are answers that have to be given to our Kashmiri people. And I want this relationship to become really a good one, because so long as there's a salience in Indian minds between Pakistan and Muslims, we are never, ever going to become a truly secular country. And we can't have 200 million alienated Indians among us. We have to be one that can only come through secularism. And secularism in India can only flourish if we can somehow end the mentality that led to partition. The mentality of Savarkar, who said that we are 2 nations, decades before Jinnah, the ambassador of Hindu-Muslim unity, took up this cause. Now we can't change the fact that we are now 2 countries. But what we can change is that there is no Hindu-Muslim animosity in Pakistan anymore. For the good reason there are no Hindus. But here we have Muslims, so there is this, there's an attempt to stoke these communal passions. And we can end those. And above all, ensure that not only can the Kashmiri Pandit go back to Kashmir, but much more important than that, that the halal meat shopkeepers and cooks they have brought from Kashmir and who are advertised in Nagrota really stunned me that they are non-vegetarians. Well, they brought from Kashmir. You take them along with you as well. And we'll have a good time only if we stop distrusting each other. Thank you, Ashok, and thank you very much, Aarti.
Friends, we have about 20 minutes now before Kasuri Saab leaves. Can I request him to offer his comments?
Yes.
Or how many people want to?
That is better way. Question way.
1, 2,
Very fast.
3, 4. Just one. So there are.
OPG,
Yeah.
I'm leaving in order to look after Khurshid's guest until he's able to come. So you have a little more than 1 o'clock.
No, not little more than 1 o'clock, not at all.
If you're leaving before 1, then we'll get.
Then go together. We
Yeah.
go together.
Sir, briefly,
Just 1 second. Just 1 second. Just 1 second.
respond.
Friends,
all
I
videos
know
come.
several of you have to offer comments, and I have a young friends who, Iqbal, can you just,
Only a question answer.
Yeah, no.
Question करवा ले हमसे.
just, well, I hope you will forgive us if we don't give you half a minute. Or,
To President Musharraf's formula, is there any relation between that?
thank you. Question,
उससे जवाब दे
do you have a question?
Just a comment.
A comment छोड़िए, question हो तो पूछ लीजिए. नहीं है. Any question? Anybody to?
No, why don't you answer, sir, and let me...
Yeah, we will.
Sir, please.
Let him start. All right.
No, why don't you answer?
I'll put it as a question.
Let me
So
answer.
may I,
Then we will
just a
go
minute, so I presume that you are ready with Mr. Kasuri Saab's comments and answers.
I'll give one question.
Please.
And anything that I leave out, because I am never happy in dodging a question, avoiding a question. Even when I was foreign minister, I made myself available to media, as Jyoti will vouch for, at all odd hours in different locations. Barkha once contacted me in Havana at midnight. Now, therefore, I'm not one of those who runs away from question. If I leave anything out, I would suggest that you please ask me. Let me, therefore, in the interest of time, start with something that I have.
One question. And then
I've been attending these meetings and SARCLA meetings. This time, Pakistan was to be the host for SARCLA meeting.
Okay.
And it is unimaginable it was held in Colombo.
Unimaginable?
Held in Colombo by Pakistan.
the meeting took place in Colombo when Pakistan was the host. It should have been held in Lahore, Islamabad, or Karachi.
Lahore or Islamabad.
Okay.
And then, the worst thing was, there is a Chief Justice's conference of all the countries, SARC countries. Indian Chief Justice was absent, perhaps not allowed to go.
One sentence.
If your Chief Justice is not allowed to go, I'm sure he can look after himself.
Yeah.
No,
Yes.
resignation. He said accept one, reject the other.
Okay, so why don't
Yeah.
you start, sir?
Why should they
Why
start?
don't you start?
अच्छा जी.
ये last.
मेरा सिर्फ एक ही पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू है कि जो आर्टिस्टिक और कल्चरल एक्सचेंज जो रुक गई है पिछले 1.5 साल से और जो पाकिस्तानी फिल्म एक्टर्स को यहाँ से फोर्सफुली उनको जाना पड़ा इंडिया से, तो वो चीज़ें, वो हॉस्टिलिटी बंद होनी चाहिए एटलीस्ट, क्योंकि एक गुडविल जब क्रिएट होता है सोसाइटी में, माहौल में, तो मीडिया जो एक
Thank you very much.
रख रहा है, उससे लोगों के बीच में एटलीस्ट एक गुडविल क्रिएट होती है, वो लोगों को
Yeah, Mr. Kasuri.
Thank you very much. देखिए, what I'll try and do is anything that I remember was said, but anything left out, please do ask. Okay. But one question which everybody has on his mind is about the 4 points. But I'd like to start with Kashmiri Pandits. And I absolutely agree. And that should actually convince him that there are lots of other peoples in his boat living in different parts. But instead of wasting time, I accept everything, endorse everything that Mani Shankar has said. And I sympathize with your plight, and you should sympathize similarly with the plight of other Kashmiris. But that's the only way. There's no other way. Number 2 is the 4 points. Yes, why did I write this book? Because I knew once this was over, it would all be forgotten, and people said nothing happened. The biggest advantage of writing this book is that I have put on record a certain benchmark, which was not just accepted by governments of that time, but by the deep state in both the countries. And I mean both the countries. And deep state, because politicians come and go, deep state stays there. People used to tell me, oh, this is because Musharraf, and then when he left, Kiani changed. Well, this did not happen. Thank God that WikiLeaks has now revealed that long after I had departed, the American ambassador met me, and I'm talking now on 4 points, and Patterson, and said, sir, can you brief me? And that the Americans wanted me to brief them. That what was the formula, give the details, I have some questions. And she sat with me, had lunch with me for 3 hours. I briefed her. She didn't tell me. But she met the Chief of Army Staff, who during my time has been the DGISI, General Kiani, and Shuja Pasha, who was then DGISI, and said, I met the former foreign minister, and he gave me this account. At that time, the book had not been published. So she wanted a complete record, and in 3 hours, I gave her as much as I could. Then WikiLeaks revealed that when she met, she said, former foreign minister has said this. And she said, can we have the back channel again? She asked me. I said, it's a good idea. She said, who do you think should be your back channel negotiator? I said, the problem is that when Vajpayee started with a journalist, the Indian diplomat started saying that Pakistan ka jo banda hai, wo to trained diplomat hai. He's a trained diplomat. Niaz Naik, wo to kacha kha jayega us journalist ko. And when we appointed somebody like Tariq Aziz, who's very good on the back channel with Lamba, Satish Lamba, our journalists started saying that Tariq Aziz ko wo kacha kha jayega, because he was a trained diplomat and ours was just a man from the income tax department. So I said the safest way out is to have a diplomat whose heart is in the right place. So she said, oh, is there one? I said, yes. She said, who? We said, my foreign secretary, Riaz Muhammad Khan. So she suggested to General Kiani, this is to tell you, those who feel that, you know, there's no scope for points. And General Shuja Pasha was DGISI then, about Riaz Muhammad Khan. And please go home and Google or read reference. It'll make your work easier. My book has given the reference also. I think Dawn paper, all over the world it was carried. But Dawn had carried this. And I think it was Dawn. And it said that she spoke and General Kiani and General Shuja Pasha said, yes, we agree with the former foreign minister. These are the points that were discussed. And she asked them, is there any sense in pursuing them? And he suggested Riaz Muhammad Khan. They said, yes, I think it's a good idea. Riaz Muhammad Khan would be a good back channel. But Kiani is gone now. As Mani rightly said, and thank God you don't remember their names. They're changing with such regularity. That is how it should be. We don't remember the names of your army chiefs. So it's a good thing that people don't remember the names. You don't remember. You said who came and who left. It's a good thing. If they serve their tenure, as long as they are there, they're institutional heads and they speak for a powerful, organized institution. Okay. Number two, it is now, thanks to Lamba, all the liars have been exposed. Because when I left, people in our government that succeeded ours, oh, ek Kasuri वैसे ही कह रहा है, कुछ भी नहीं था. Both People's Party and PMLN. Then 6 months ago or 8 months ago, in an interview, he revealed that he had been speaking with both those governments on exactly these 4 points. And I went to town. I said, contradict Lamba. They didn't have the guts to contradict him because they were actually talking on that. So which means, on the quietly, when you saying there are no takers for it, are there any takers? They were talking, both the governments, People's Party and Nawaz Sharif's government is still in power. And you were going to say, what about the military? My answer is that the Pakistan army, you see, let's understand the characters of the two armies. We have an air marshal, I'm sure, but if we had a military man, he would also understand, air marshal would understand. Pakistani and Indian armies are trained to each other as enemies. And there is no grey line. There's black and white. And in all training and exercises is the enemy. But believe you me, I have addressed so many military gatherings, so many staff colleges, so many National Defense University gatherings. When the 4-point was on, forget about what President Musharraf said. He said, I have consulted every corps commander. Because people used to say, oh, it happened because Musharraf was there. And, but now that he's gone, the army has disowned. So first was, I want to tell you this incident and this WikiLeaks. Must have addressed, I don't know how many. I have had one, and they are trained to ask hard questions even from their own commanders, as long as it's not covered in the media. They are trained for that. They ask hard questions from their sitting army chiefs. So I've been addressing those gatherings. I received 1.5 hard questions from serving military officers. 1.5 because one was rude and negative. That was full one. One was polite and negative. so I call it half. In my 5 years, I received 1.5 negative comment about the 4-point formula because I could justify it. Now, what is my justification? My justification is that we've tried everything. Everything under the sun. Then we used to scare ourselves, oh no, nuclear war is not possible. And I hope it's not possible and I pray it's not possible. But the bad news is that now, at one time, Pakistan didn't have the capacity to fight a conventional war for a long time. Ayub Khan at least gave that as argument when he entered into peace with India at Tashkent. Oh, I had no option. Because people saying you lost on the negotiating table what the army had won on the battlefield, and Bhutto took him to pieces. And actually then became the president because of Tashkent and the attacks on President Ayub Khan. He used to say, oh, that's the only ammunition, I could only fight for 17 or 20 days, and that's why I went to Tashkent. Now, with the self-sufficiency that's been acquired and interoperability, etc., there's going to be a long conventional war. And that is no solace. Because if you don't have thank God, no nuclear war, I think no sane person will think of nuclear war, because that means the end of everything. But even a conventional war, which causes such incalculable damage to both the sides, that then, okay, we have acquired yet another capability. And that is the capability to destabilize each other, which I call the fault lines in both the countries. You can exploit ours and we can exploit yours. It's a game that both can and do play, but zero advantage to either side. I think the military understands that. Why do I say they understand that? You see, when I said they are told to think in terms of black and white, I am thinking of Jawans, and I am thinking of probably officers who don't go beyond major. But once you go to Staff College, and then when you go to the National Defence University, unlike most politicians, when I went, I had no degree in international relations. They have far more exposure. There are 30 nationalities who are sitting with them at the NDU. Then Indians and Pakistanis served together during peacekeeping operations and have had the best of relations there, and quite a few of them have said it publicly. Well, even our current Army Chief General Bajwa, I think, served under an Indian. And I met an Indian officer yesterday who said he served under another Bajwa, that is Major General Bajwa, Anis Bajwa. So the army officers beyond a certain level have much greater exposure. They are far more sophisticated. They do understand that Soviet Union collapsed despite being the mightiest armed force and 20,000 nuclear weapons. So having a strong army and nuclear weapons is no guarantee for success. The only answer is political stability. The only answer is political, economic prosperity. Otherwise, we remember clearly, I hope I'll never see that picture again, the old great Soviet army, which lost millions of soldiers but did not surrender to Nazi Germany, using its bayonets to grow cabbage. And that is a photograph that I shall never forget. And I know, I've discussed this with the military on many occasions without any contradiction. They are dealing with a rational lot. They are people who have seen the world. And in fact, I have addressed both civil and military officers, I must say, that we used to make fun when I was at government college. The best people went into the civil service. I didn't even try. There were 1% idiots like me who just didn't wish to go into civil. Otherwise, when I was a student, everybody had 1 year underage so that you could have one more opportunity to appear for civil service exam. And the others who couldn't make it went into other, and we used to say if there were 4 brothers, the one who was least qualified went into the military. But in the civil service, there's no culling. You pass the exam, forget about reading any book. In the military, there is culling to such an extent. The pyramid is like this. It's like this and goes like this. About 3% people make to brigadiers and maybe 1% to general. And there are exams at every stage. They have to read books at every stage. And anybody, whether you're a journalist or a lawyer, who doesn't read books cannot think in depth. And therefore, when I used to talk to generals, even if they had a different perspective, I believe you me, during this 3 years, that's why it took 3 years. It wasn't in a jiffy, this Kashmir thing, because General Kiani represented the ISI and General Ahsan Salim Ayad, Vice Chief of Army Staff, represented the military. Because Musharraf said, I will not represent the military. I'm head of state, I don't represent the military's institutional interests. Never did I receive a rhetoric reply to run me down. Never. It was always a well-reasoned expose of national interest within inverted commas. And I would give a well-reasoned expose of national interest within inverted commas. Ultimately, arguments prevail. And the real credit for Musharraf, he's a very bright man. I don't know, but he does say lots of things which contradict. I wish he wouldn't. He did a great job. He asked me, Kasuri Saab, main to siyasat mein aa raha hu. Khuda ke waste sir na aaye. Kyun? Do you know, he said to me, I have the biggest fan club in Pakistan, this Facebook. And itne million bande hain. मैंने कहा सर वो नहीं आएंगे कराची एयरपोर्ट को आपको रिसीव करने के लिए जो फेसबुक वाले हैं. So I don't know why, but otherwise, great credit. Thank you, whoever sent this to me. Kasuri's recipe for Kashmir. Thank you. But the people who deserve real credit are Manmohan Singh and Musharraf. And I was lucky, I had my heart in it, and that's why I helped facilitate it, and whenever there were problems, I was there. So the two people who get most of the credit are, because without them it would not be possible, Dr. Manmohan Singh and President Musharraf. So the point is, I think in Pakistan it is realized. Then you will say, why is it that whenever efforts are made, something happens? Yes, we have a problem. Now there are two ways. I'll give an answer to that also. Either we stop talking, but all over the world, it is to curtail violence. Even the worst of enemies at Haiphong and Haifu during the Vietnam War, it's calculated that more tonnage was dropped in terms of BTU or whatever than over Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And when those bombs were being...
Over the whole of Europe by both sides throughout the duration of the
Second World War. There was more tonnage dropped on Haifu, and my salams and hats off to the great Vietnamese people over Haiphong and Haifu. America in full fury. They were burning. Kids who were burning, and their pictures were carried by brave journalists all over the world. But they were talking to each other. Every Tuesday or whatever the day was, Majestic or whatever hotel, between Lou Doc Tho and Henry Kissinger. So please do not say we will talk on these conditions. I have already established that this time this didn't happen. Talk started because the government of India said, no, we have a new red line. There will be no talks if you talk to the Hurriyat. Now, I've already explained, because you came very late, why we found it necessary that frankly we can't even justify ourselves to the people of Pakistan. They say, why are you talking to India? Kashmiris are the real party. So we at least, and I give credit, and of course Mani is right that it was during Vajpayee Saab time it happened, but I give credit to Natwar Singh. I said, Natwar Sahab, please convince your Prime Minister, that is Manmohan Singh, to at least allow Kashmiris to travel in both directions, to meet people in Jammu, to meet people in Srinagar and in Muzaffarabad, and also in Islamabad and Delhi. Let them, so that at least we can then justify, well, we have involved them. My big scare, and why would I meet the Hurriyat repeatedly, is I knew that anything that we did with India would be thrown out of the window in a second if the Kashmiris in occupied Kashmir rejected it. So I was very scared. So I was meeting Kashmiri leaders of all hues, publicly and privately. I've never named them, because I wanted to know what it is that they really want. वो कहते कौन जीता है तेरे जुल्फ के सर होने को, कहते भाई पहले जान तो बचाओ हमारी, हमारे बच्चे औरतें नफ्सियाती मरीज हो रहे हैं, फौजें निकालो। That's the first point. It took a great deal of difficulty. Ultimately, India also realized कि अगर कुछ सेटलमेंट होना है, उनका फिर आप भी फौजें निकाले। हमने कहा हमें तो नहीं, किसी ने कहा ना हमारा प्रोटोकॉल नहीं करेंगे, हमने भी निकाली फौज। अब ये एग्रीड कि जो इंडिया करेगा। फिर उन्होंने हमने कहा जी वो कहते हैं वो जो अल्टीमेट सोल्यूशन तो पता नहीं क्या होना है। हमने हमारा स्टार्टिंग पॉइंट है कि जो शेख अब्दुल्ला का एग्रीमेंट हुआ था 53 में इनके साथ पंडित जवाहरलाल नेहरू साहब के साथ, 53 उन्होंने कहा वहां से शुरू कराओ। मुझे तो आई वाज नॉट सेंसिटिव, मुझे तो पता ही नहीं था कि वो क्या कह रहे हैं। हम तो अपनी पाकिस्तान के फॉरेन मिनिस्ट्री का स्टैंड था ना। आई वाज कंपेल्ड इनटू इट because I didn't wish the program rejected out of hand. That's why I was dying to talk to Kashmiris all the time, so I could justify to the people of Pakistan that we are not selling them, because our opposition was saying you're selling out, you turn, you're destroying, history will not forgive you. So we were therefore legitimacy for us, and we're saying no, we are briefing them, we are meeting them, they are going to Delhi, they are going to Islamabad, our Kashmiris are going to Delhi, they are going to Srinagar. So point is that this process, and the second point was self-governance. No autonomy. I don't want to use Urdu words. They said the only thing they had agreed was at that time, defense, foreign affairs, and I think communications or whatever. उनका हमने कहा हमारे यहाँ तो ऑलरेडी है, प्रेसिडेंट भी है, प्राइम मिनिस्टर भी है, चीफ जस्टिस सुप्रीम कोर्ट भी है, इंडिया का नहीं। अगर हमारे यहाँ होगा तो आपको भी वही करना पड़ेगा जो हम करेंगे। Okay, there was debate on our side. We said, okay, we'll do the same. In other words, maximum self-governance. Maximum self-governance. And this line will just remain a line on the map. We realized कि इतनी wars ने border change नहीं किया। मजीद wars कश्मीरियों को ही मारेंगी ज़्यादातर। तो ये अंदाजा हमें हो गया था कि border तो change नहीं होना। तो बजाय ये कि उसको आप बंदे ही मारते जाएं और एक outstanding dispute रखें, मेरी एक चीज नहीं मानी गई, काश मान ली जाती, it would have been a good thing. I made a suggestion and I think it's मैंने कहा कि ये सारी कहानी खत्म करो, कश्मीर वाला ब्रिज बन जाएगा, पाकिस्तानियों को भी बगैर वीजे के आने दो कश्मीर में। हमारे लोग ही एग्री नहीं किए। मैंने कहा उनको आने दो without visas, let Indians and Pakistanis travel to Kashmir without visas and passports, because it will become the place where they meet each other as human beings, not as enemies. The way I met Mani, effectively the first Hindu I met, as he said yesterday, when I met at Cambridge, I was very curious to meet a Hindu. So,
and he chose me, and it was
a
terrible
mistake. Realized what a mistake I'd made. Okay, so we were photographed at Cambridge, standing next to each other. So the point I'm trying to make is that as far as this 4-point is concerned, nobody will say it publicly. Nobody will show their cards. My great reason, the reason for writing the book is no poker game can be played now. We know what India's bottom line is and they know what our bottom line is. Then we had the joint mechanism because we wanted to show something to our people. उनका यार तुम तो बॉर्डर मान के आ गए हो। उन्होंने ये तो नहीं कहना था जस्ट अ लाइन ऑन द मैप। तो हमने कहा नहीं, हमने तब्दीली की है, इंडिया पाकिस्तान कश्मीरी दोनों तरफ के इकट्ठे बैठेंगे और उसमें 18 सब्जेक्ट्स भी डाल दिए। और इन अमेरिकन सेनेट ने कहा है कि फ्यूचर वॉर पाकिस्तान इंडिया की अगर कश्मीर पे ना हुई तो पानी पे हो जाएगी। अमेरिकन सेनेट डिसाइडेड। तो उसमें हमने फिर ये किया कि इंडिया पाकिस्तान एग्रीड कि वाटर इश्यूज को भी उसके अंदर डाल दिया। आगे हमने आई कैन गो ऑन एंड ऑन बट यू वांटेड टू नो कि क्या इसके लिए है। आई एम हैप्पी टू रिपोर्ट यू कि मीडिया भी रियलाइज कर रहा है,
क्या कर रहे हैं
कर ये रहे हैं कि इसके बारे में बात की
बात
जाती है, करने की जरूरत है, बात करेंगे तो होगा ना। और मैं ये समझता हूँ कि प्राइम मिनिस्टर मोदी की हुकूमत भी इसी नतीजे पे पहुंचेगी, जैसे कि उन्होंने इंटरलॉक्यूटर अपॉइंट किया है। वो और बात है कि कश्मीरी कह रहे हैं हमें को और इंटरलॉक्यूटर चाहिए, आई एम नॉट इंटरेस्टेड इन दैट, दैट इज देयर इंटरनल मैटर। But the fact is that if the government of India thought that they could do and there will be no reaction, they have realized no. It's only one step away when they realize कि कोई settlement नहीं हो सकती अगर पाकिस्तान उसमें नहीं। Privately everybody admits it. तो वो हमने तो publicly admit किया था जब हम 4 points government of India, government of Pakistan कह रहे थे। तो मैं ये आपको कह रहा हूँ कि ये क्योंकि एक sensible solution है। Both the militaries realize it, and Prime Minister Modi will be advised by his security officials, who are much better educated in military matters than I am, who have read more books than I have on military matters, कि sir way out नहीं है कोई। तो जब being the person that he is, I have known every Indian leader who at some stage said, I want to go down in history, I want to make this. They never said it publicly, they said it privately to us. Why should he be an exception? I hope he's not. I've been told he's very different. I've been told that, you know, you're living in a fool's paradise, that he actually focuses on polarization. Whatever his internal politics is not my concern. That brings me down to the most important point. It is not for you or for me to decide who is holding, who is minding the business in Delhi or Islamabad. This is not your headache. This is only petty point scoring. भाई अगर मोदी है तो है, मुझसे पूछ के तो नहीं आया. The people of India accept. We have to talk to him. Who are we? This is your matter. You can talk and say he is doing this wrong, right. इसको ये नहीं करना चाहिए. लेकिन हमें वो liberty वो नहीं है जो आपको है. Pakistanis have to deal with whoever is in power in Delhi, and you will have to deal with whatever you like or dislike in Islamabad. Leave it to us to manage our affairs. Let me address one point. Khan साहब ने कहा था, उससे गलत फहमी पैदा हो जाती है. That's why I want to address that, not for any other. I'm not doing it for a reason of point scoring, but a mistake is made. Pakistan can never be isolated, sir. And there are reasons, and now let me give the reasons. In fact, United States is isolated now, and let me give you the reason. The main issue in the region is Afghanistan. The main parties are those that are about 10 or 12 bang around. They are Iran, of course Afghanistan is the issue. There is China, there is Uzbekistan, there is Tajikistan, Kazakhstan, all the bordering states, Pakistan, Russia, which is a near neighbor. All of them are speaking with one voice and saying, you can only have peace in Afghanistan if the Kabul government, and I would say under the constitution, I hope it's under the constitution, because I don't want to see Taliban government in Kabul. It's bad for Pakistan. I'm not talking of what happens in Afghanistan. It's terrible for us, what their views are on women, on education. So I myself would not want that. But what I'm saying is, all governments are committed that if you want peace, then you want an Afghan-led process in which the current government and the Taliban talk to each other, and my hope is it is within the Afghan constitution, because it gives basic guarantees to minorities, to women, to various things. Russia, China, the so-called six stans around Afghanistan, Pakistan and Iran, all agree that there should be a settlement of that nature. So United States itself agreed under Obama, but with an overwhelming desire to disprove everything that Obama has done. The only thing on which Trump has reversed interest, and we must learn to deal with Prime Minister Modi, and you must learn. Forget about what's happening in Pakistan. I'm very upset by what's happened in Islamabad myself. But that is no guarantee or excuse for anyone to run away from a dialogue. I can't say, because such and such a thing has happened in India, we can't talk. We have to talk. People of India have elected the Prime Minister of India. Who are we? So I rest my case and I can answer any questions after this.
I have to make a few comments.
Question only,
Question.
Sorry, I don't have questions. I have comments because they are very important. Only from the perspective that I'm a dissenter here, and most of the people are in. There's a consensus among most people here, so that's why I need to speak my mind here. I will start with I will start with Mr. Iyer's last comment, and I think that is the most crucial point for all Indians. He talked about secularism, and I'm a huge supporter of secularism. I believe in the idea of India as a secular democratic republic. That idea came from our constitution, it came from our preamble, and I believe that that is what makes India completely different from Pakistan. Pakistan is an Islamic republic. India is a secular democratic republic. So, but I sense that there's a lack of self-reflection among people who were at the helm of affairs for 50 years or 30 years, or which is of course also part of the 4-point formula you've been referring to. Communications, foreign affairs, and no, sir, why I chose to speak, I'm speaking as a dissenter because everyone here is in consensus. Please remember that. Just a minute. You can speak later. I will leave in 5 minutes.
In consensus for people.
That we are here is because somewhere secularism got failed. Secularism was wronged. Simply because the ruling dispensation in the last 70 years pandered to extremists, whether they were Hindus or whether they were Muslims. That pandering is still continuing. That pandering to Islamists in Kashmir, correct your course. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's okay, doesn't matter.
Thank you very much.
Not on the agenda.
I just want to bring a very important point, a very positive point, which is both for positively towards Pakistan. Now, we all siblings were born in Lahore, undivided India. Now, my sister, now what this policeman said is tomorrow was a flight. In 2005, he told her, you cannot go back to Hindustan without you meeting my family. You will come home, have khana with us, and then I will see you off.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Friends,
one thing I want to say about visas. This is very important, what Jyoti point she made. This is at the heart of it. The reason why the dynamic changed in Pakistan and India is that I insisted. The very first thing I say in my book is that an Indian delegation was coming to Islamabad. It had lots of parliamentarians. It was organized by the journalist South Asia, SAFMA. And foreign officer said, how can they wanted to meet me and the Prime Minister and how can they meet? Why can't they meet? They're important people, they're influence in India. Well, no, you can't meet. This is one of the few occasions, actually this will not be reported, that I disagreed by writing point by point why we need to change policy. I made sure they came to me, I gave lunch for them, I made sure they went to see President Musharraf. Believe you me, they spent 4 hours with him. They wanted to be photographed, they wanted to ask all questions, and Musharraf is a great communicator. That is his strength, and I wished he wouldn't speak so much and so often to everybody. Because when you have multiple constituencies in mind, you are bound to make a mistake. But his historic legacy, if I meet him again when he doesn't live in Pakistan, I'm going to tell him that, sir, please try and limit your. Because this is his historic legacy. So Islamic Republic का इन्होंने point किया और उन्होंने कहा कि secularism. The point is very valid. But sometimes there are labels. We unfortunately are more than a label. But sometimes history brings labels. The Queen is considered defender of the faith. And until I was studying in England for my law, capital punishment was awarded for XYZ, killing a policeman on duty and stealing Her Majesty's swans. So I asked somebody, has it been removed from the statute? I hope it has been. But there are something, otherwise Mr. Jinnah was as secular as anybody in India. And in fact, unfortunately for Osmania University, they translated secularism as Ladin. So we can't even use the word secular in Pakistan the moment you say, oh, they're anti-religion. So it's a translation. Basically, Islam teaches that, in matters of faith, there is no compulsion. But they have given a certain...
La ikrahi fi deen. There is no compulsion in the deen.
Friends, I must. I understand several. He has to go.
I have one question for Kasuri sir.
Auntie, please, I have a very important announcement to make. Please. I am very grateful to Mani Shankar Iyer, particularly because I wanted this meeting to take place yesterday. And Mani decided to give me the privilege of hosting today. I don't know. I didn't tell him. He perhaps knew that today happens to be my birthday. Oh, so I'm very grateful to Kasuri Saab for having come today and be with my friends. And I'll request each one of you, please stay back for the lunch. And thank you, sir. Thank you, Mani. And thank you.
Happy birthday.
Sheilaji, what you were supposed to do, I've done. Thank you.